Hello there, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent and here are the top stories. Police fire tear gas at Take It Back protesters in Abuja and Rivers State. Obedient react as SDP claims Obi Atiku set to join party. House of Reps sends fresh warning to Rivers administrator, and Israel accused of intentionally bombing journalists in Gaza. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 12 begins on the foreign scene where Israel continues pounding Gaza, bombing a tent housing journalists near Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, killing at least 2 and wounding 7 others. The renewed attacks come after Israel's military killed more than 50 people and ordered residents of 5 neighborhoods of central Deir el-Bala to flee. Gaza's health ministry says at least 50,695 Palestinians are confirmed dead and 115,338 wounded since the war began. The government media office updated its death toll to more than 61,700, saying thousands of people missing under the rubble are presumed dead. At least 1,139 people were killed in Israel during the Hamas-led October 7, 2023 attacks, and more than 200 were taken captive. Back home in Nigeria, the Take It Back protest happening today across state in Nigeria took a turn when officers of the Rivers State Command opened tear gas on the protesters in a bid to disperse them. Organizers and supporters of the Take It Back movement, civil society organizations, and Niger Delta Congress had gathered at Isaac Borough Park in Port Harcourt to be met with resistance from operatives of the Rivers State Police Command. The policemen asked them to leave for another venue. Still undeterred, the protesters began singing solidarity songs and started marching inside the park, proceeding outside towards the popular Aba Express Road. When the protesters reached the CFC junction, the armed anti-riot policemen intercepted them again and ordered them to vacate the street, and order which they defied. Immediately, the policemen fired tear gas canisters, which sent the various groups protesting scattering for safety. Protesters have also gathered in the nation's capital, wielding placards that with various inscriptions such as "Stop the Repression" and "Let us breathe," amongst others. Human rights activist Omoyele Sowore was cited at the protest ground lending support to the cause. Let's take a listen to him speaking at the protest ground earlier this morning.
We are here today because we have told the Tinubu regime that we will not accept the laws that control our fundamental human rights. Now, the police are aware that we have a march today. They said they have their own program today as well. Yes. But we have told them that their program cannot stand in the way of our own march. And we have told them that we are going to the National Assembly. If they like, let them mobilize and join us. In fact, we have told policemen in Nigeria that it is time for the police and the people to work together. So that they can improve their own life conditions as well, and their working conditions. Nigerian policemen are the worst paid in the world, but they keep killing the same people who are fighting for them. We are not going to accept that anymore. While we are here, Tinubu is busy enjoying himself in France. We are not going to stay back in our country while our president is censoring our rights. And we have told them also that the IGP of police that is leading the program today at Eagle Square is an illegal IGP of police. He must leave after 16 years. He must go! Of power. That is the essence of our...
In a recent development, a long list of notable politicians, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and ex-presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, are in talks to join the Social Democratic Party, SDP. This was revealed by SDP presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Adewale Adebayo. Adebayo said Atiku and Obi's men are in talks for their principals to team up with the SDP, which recently welcomed former Kaduna State Governor and chieftain of the ruling APC, El-Rufai into its fold. Responding, the interim national coordinator of the Obedient Movement Worldwide, Yunusa Tanko, has countered the SDP 2023 presidential candidate. Tanko, who was a campaigner for Peter Obi, during an interview said Obi remains a member of the Labour Party till further development. Speaking further, Tanko noted that the leaders of the Labour Party would make some positions clear to Nigerians in the coming days, especially in line with the Supreme Court judgment sacking Julius Abure as Labour Party national chairman. Meanwhile, the House of Reps has issued a reminder to Rivers State Sole Administrator Vice Admiral Ibak Ete Ibas, emphasizing that he lacks the constitutional authority to make laws or draft a budget for the state. The House's stance follows his announcement of plans to prepare a new budget after the declaration of a state of emergency in March. The deputy spokesman for the House, Philip Agbese, clarified that the sole administrator does not have the mandate to perform legislative functions under the current circumstances. He noted that Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, is consulting with the leadership of the House to establish a committee to oversee the administrator's activities and ensure that the interests of Rivers State are represented. Explained that the House of Reps had already communicated their position on the administrator's appointment and mandate to President Bola Tinubu. He warned that if the sole administrator oversteps his constitutional boundaries, the House will take necessary actions, including the possibility of a vote of no confidence to ensure adherence to the rule of law. Former federal lawmaker Senator Shehu Sani, ex-presidential aide Renua Mokri, and former governors of Abia and Enugu State Okezie Ekpazu and Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi are reportedly among those nominated for ambassadorial appointments by the Nigerian government. Femi Pedro and Femi Fani Kayode are also reportedly on the list. VOP News gathered that the nominees are currently being screened by the Department of State Services (DSS), and the final list will be made public soon. According to the Vanguard, one of the appointees confirmed his nomination on the condition of anonymity on Sunday. On why the names of the appointees had not been released, an official from the presidency told the newspaper anonymously that when those appointed have clear security checks, their names will be released. You will recall that the country's ambassadors were recalled from their postings last year without replacement. In a tragic development, the Lakurawa terrorist group on Sunday killed 13 members of a vigilante group as they attacked Morai community in Agi local government area of Kebbi State. The 13 vigilantes were reportedly killed when they tried to resist the Lakurawa as they attacked and rustled cattle from the community. A local, Malam Ibrahim Agi, told journalists that vigilante members in their numbers had come out to repel the terrorist attack when they were informed of their incursion into the village, but the terrorists had already encircled them and killed 13. The police is yet to say anything on the matter. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll now head into the news analysis segment. I have sitting with me right here in the studio veteran journalist as well as political, social, national and international affairs analyst, Mr. Chukuma Okoro. Mr. Okoro, you're nodding your head. All of these titles, aren't they yours? They're yours. Embrace them. Welcome to the World News at 12. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Week. Thank you for coming. So, certain parts of Lagos are agog, not just Lagos, certain parts of the country actually are agog with protests. And the protesters are saying they want a repeal of the Cybercrime Act. They are saying they want the state of emergency in Rivers State. It's unconstitutional and they want it to be ended immediately. In fact, it's almost as if everybody at the protest has one thing or the other that they are protesting for, because I did see someone also carrying a placard in Lagos saying, oh, Shoki demolitions, 10,000 people displaced, you need to pay them. Every Nigerian has one thing or the other that's making them disgruntled. The police has fired tear gas. Would you say that the protesters are not organized? Because they're not exactly protesting one thing. Shore himself is talking about the IGP being illegal. He's talking about the fact that the Cybercrime Act needs to be repealed. It's a whole lot of issues.
Well, Choma, a whole lot of issues. When you talk about organizing a protest, if you organize a protest, then it's no longer a protest.
If you organize a protest, the people are meant to just get up and hit the streets.
Look, Choma, if you look at the important protests that change the world, they are very spontaneous. They are very spontaneous. Look at what gave rise to the Arab Spring. The situation was already boiling over until Mohammed Bouazizi had to self-immolate himself. You know, he does himself with petrol, set himself on fire. That was what set off the conflagration that consumed Tunisia, moved over to Algeria, from Algeria to Egypt. That is the what do you call it? What do we call it again? This spring, the Arab Spring. It was spontaneous. The French Revolution wasn't planned.
But one could say the spontaneity came with violence.
A lot of people don't even understand that Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't part of the French Revolution until after about 2-3 years, well into the revolution. You know, what about the Russian Revolution? What started it off? Bread. People were looking for bread. There was no bread for people to eat. You know, I am not calling for some kind of spontaneity, you know, but when you say that they have so many demands, well, because the people are under the boss in this country. They are asking for a reversal of the state of emergency in
Rivers State, a repeal of the Cybercrime Act, which they say is being used to stifle free speech in Nigeria.
I have a problem with the Cybercrime Act. When people say that the state of emergency is unconstitutional, I don't quite agree with them on that. But they have a right to protest.
So what is unconstitutional? The suspension of the government?
The government should also listen to protesters. I don't like the fact that government is clamping down on protesters. I don't like the fact that government is firing tear gas. Policemen are firing tear gas at protesters. It is not right. You should allow them. It's constitutionally given. It's their right to vent, to protest, so long as they do it in a peaceful manner.
You know, even before now, the police have been calling...
I have not heard that the protesters have turned violent. So let me talk about the constitutionality or otherwise. The Constitution clearly empowers the president to declare a state of emergency. If the president, first of all, anticipates that there is going to be a likelihood of breakdown of law and order in a certain state or in a certain environment, the president clearly has the powers to declare a state of emergency. Tinubu is not the first person to do it. Jonathan did, Obasanjo did. So the Constitution clearly empowers the president. But about removing a sitting governor is a different ballgame. I think the president it is his prerogative. Jonathan did. So where do you locate all of those things?
Police issued a press release talking about how it's preparing for its maiden National Police Day, which is supposed to come up today, and that's the reason why they do not even want the protest to be happening at all. It's almost as if the protest is disrupting the celebration that the police want to celebrate.
Go back small. Canisters shooting tear gas by the police at the peaceful protesters.
The Nigerian policing system is very, very different. But the protesters have been fired tear gas in Abuja, in Rivers State. Shuwore is leading the procession in Abuja. You could see from a video when they fired the tear gas, and he was running away from it. And then he spoke. He's called the IGP unconstitutional. There really are a lot of issues. Isn't it time that the government would actually look at it and say, our people are disgruntled, or are we dealing with people who do not care what happens to the masses as long as they keep holding on to that part? Some people have also accused Shuwore of working for this administration, saying, how do you plan a protest and you let them know when it's going to happen so that they can actually counter you, so that they can actually come and disrupt the process? Would you agree with those people?
Exactly the point that I made about protests that are meaningful, protests that are impactful, being spontaneously organized. And I think I give examples. Now about Shuwore working for the president, I spoke with Omoyele Shuwore on TV, and I asked him the same question. He said no, that there is nothing like that. So he's giving us his word. Except people that have information that he is working for the president. If they have that information, they can put it out there. I don't have that information. But my concern is that why is it that protests are organized in Abuja, where you know that it's going to fizzle out in a matter of hours? Because if you go through the history of protests in Nigeria, you discover that the protests that make impact always take off from here in Lagos. And if it doesn't, because of the centrality of Lagos in business and politics, so if it doesn't take off in Lagos, it was only the SAP, the structural adjustment, I was in the university then, that started somewhere in University of Benin, but had full effect. My worry is, if Take It Back movement, if they want the protest to be impactful, people like Omo Eleshowore, people like, what's that, Juwon, his name, right? The organizer, the
Juwon
Sonyolo, the guy that signed this thing, they should come down to Lagos, mobilize people. You know what? Shut down Lagos, shut down the port, shut down the international airport. You get the point. Shut down Marina and Broad Street. Then the government will know that
the police have been warning against this protest. Do you think they will actually allow protesters to shut down this business district that you're mentioning?
But they did before. In 2012, they did. They shut down Lagos or Jota. And where again? And somewhere in Maryland. And Jonathan had to control. They understand these things. They understand. So when people say that Showore, more like, might be, surreptitiously working for the government, so you begin to interrogate some of those allegations that people make. If you want any protest to be impactful, okay, now some people have argued that, look, take it to the National Assembly. Do you think the police will let you go to the National Assembly? So come to Lagos here.
Because we're even getting reports that they are beating up protesters and arrested 4 people.
If you shut down Lagos for 3 days, the government is going to call you for negotiation. The government is going to listen to you.
But did they listen to during NSAS? Because Lagos was shut down. That Lekki Expressway, that toll gate area, it was totally shut down. Ojota, Alausa, the crowd was massive. Because I recall going to cover it one day, and they just spilled onto the road and stopped cars from moving and said, look, this affects you, it affects I. A lot of people have been coming out to protest even after
dissenting voices. Is that so? It is difficult to now aggregate the demands. And that was what they did when they said end bad governance. Now they say they said end bad governance. Now they say they want to take it back. They want to.
If you want any protest to be meaningful, bring it down here. I want to actually talk about the Cybercrime Act and why some people are calling for its repeal. It's no news that certain people have been arrested. They'll say, oh, he insulted the president's wife. Some they'll say insulted the president's son. Some they will say, oh, this person abused a man of God. And you see people that from their homes in the middle of the night, their doors broken down, taken to God knows where, only when the family raises an alarm before maybe the Nigerian Secret Police, DSS, or the military or the police will come out and say, we have this person and we arrested them for so reason. Is the Cybercrime Act actually being used as a tool to suppress free speech in Nigeria? Or is it Nigerians who do not want to be censored and have access to criticize the government using whatever kind of words that they choose?
There are layers of censorship. And if you talk about the Cybercrime Act, the cyber freedom, like Fisayo Shoyombo, like David Hundeini, he is on the wrong. There is a viral video of 2 young men, and I understand that one of them is even a 7 police officer, giving the president ultimatum to fish out Uromi, the killers of Uromi 16. Otherwise, that hell will be let loose.
We also have someone on Twitter who's a former military man saying, if anybody commits today what Deborah did then, we will find her and do the same thing that was done to her, to them as at this moment. It's no news we have so many terrorist sympathizers within our security agencies.
We have a sheikh, who has come out openly to say, look, I know we're terrorists. I discuss with them. I negotiate with them. We have seen governments paying money to terrorists, seculars, allegedly. Seculars purporting that terrorists have been paid. Bandits have been paid by the government. So what is cybercrime? What is Cybercrime Act? What is cyber stalking? What is cyber security?
Cyberbullying.
And all of these things. And they are looking for Omoyele Sowore because he took pictures of policemen who were purportedly being gratified, taking gratification.
One of the arguments is that the law is so
from the government itself. And the free press. And the moment you stifle free press, that is one. And the free press. And the moment you stifle free press, that is one of the preconditions, for a state to descend into authoritarianism. So when people make allegations to say that, look, this government is clearly becoming authoritarian and repressive, You don't need to travel far. You can put one or two things together and say, well, that might be right. Repressive. You don't need to travel far. You can put one or two things together and say, well, that might be right after all, because of relying on the experience of history, relying on what's going on.
Bad governance, August 2024, 10 days of rage, October 2024. Right now is Endside. By day 2 or day 3, you only see a handful of people at the venue, and then it just totally fizzles out, and the status quo remains. Has it really achieved anything?
It has achieved something, because at the end, government understands that they cannot take the people for a ride. That at any point in time, that the people also have the power, something that is called people's power. You know, that people have the power to protest. The people have the right to vent. The people have the right to hold the government to account. And one of the ways they can do that is by organizing peaceful protests. The operational word there should be peaceful protests. You know, so that is the kind of impact that protests make. NLC has organized protests. One way or the other, they got something from the government, maybe increase in salary, increase in minimum wage, and all of that. But you cannot do away with protest. At a point, truck drivers in Canada did protest. Truck drivers in the US protested. So freedom of, that is protest is a freedom that is guaranteed by the constitution of so many countries, so long as it doesn't turn violent. Look at what happened in South Korea. Look at what happened in Hong Kong the other time. Protests, and they were able to effect the kind of change they needed in government.
Let's move on from this particular conversation because of our time. There's breaking news at this moment that Peter Obi and Alex Otti have summoned an urgent meeting of the Labour Party National Executive Council. This is, of course, after the Supreme Court has affirmed that Julius Abure should not remain as national chairman of the Labour Party. SDP's Adewale Adebayo is also saying Atiku and Obi are coming to SDP soon. We're talking about it. Meanwhile, Obedient Movement Interim Coordinator Eunice Atanko is saying no, Peter Obi remains a member of the Labour Party. He's not going anywhere as at this moment. Peter Obi himself has said he remains a bona fide member of the party. He's the leader of the party, and the party is in talks with the coalition actually, but they have not made a deal.
Yes, that's what Eunice Atanko said. And Adewale Adebayo didn't just say that Peter Obi is.
He said they are coming. They're all coming.
They're all coming. Yes, he
said we have a long list of politicians set to join SDP.
I spoke to him, you know, and he said, look, this isn't the first time. That this is about the third time Peter Obi is trying to come to SDP.
This is the third time Peter Obi is trying to come.
This is about
he revealed
if
the first time was before or after he joined the Labour Party as a presidential candidate.
No, he didn't. He didn't. But he said this is not the first time. He said this is about the third time Peter Obi is coming to SDP. And so if Tanko Yunus is saying, well, but Obi, if he's making efforts, if he's making attempts to go to SDP, that doesn't mean that he's no longer a bona fide member of the Labour Party.
If he's making attempts, that's a defection. If he's making attempts to join the SDP.
He hasn't effectively defected. He could be holding talks with them and remains a member of the Labour Party.
Looking at the crisis within the Labour Party, actually, some would say, look, Obi, it's time for you to take a bow. You've helped them. You've put them on the lips of every Nigerian. It's time for you to go. And maybe create your own political party. The Obedient Movement will rally behind you. But instead, what he and Alex Otti have done is to summon a Labour Party National Executive Council meeting. Recall that the Labour Party is saying, look, Supreme Court is saying its own. Abure remains the Labour Party chairman.
According to Obi Oraifo.
Yes, according to
the
Obi
National
Oraifo.
Public Secretary, because he said, look, the Supreme Court judgment did not clearly remove Abure. And if you look at this thing, it looks like there's some contradiction you know, within that judgment, because the Supreme Court on one hand said, look, his tenure has expired. He's no longer the national chairman. The same Supreme Court said it was wrong for the Court of Appeal to even have entertained that matter, because the judicial process has no place in determining who becomes the leadership.
Those are internal affairs of the party.
And Supreme Court said that the crisis in the Labour Party has been resolved. I don't think it's been resolved, because it has only thrown them into a bigger problem. And look, people don't even understand the bigger problem I see with what seems to have been reconciliation. So a court said that, look, allow a party into a coalition with Atiku Abubakar and El-Rufai. That is where the bigger problem is. For me, that is where the bigger problem is. But one thing stands out and stands clear in what Obi has done. You know, when the problem started, people were trolling Obi. They said, look, you can't even handle the affairs of the internal affairs of a small party like Labour Party. So how could you be becoming
able to rule Nigeria?
And Obi said, look, I do things methodically. I like following due process. And he did. He allowed the team to run through the courts. And Supreme Court has finally said, well, Julius Abure, your tenure has expired. So I think it has validated Obi's position that you don't have to be very brash. You don't have to be rash. You don't have to snatch it. You don't have to run with it to be rash. You don't have to snatch it. You don't have to run with it. You don't have to cause chaos in a party because you are trying to settle a problem.
So you feel this is a way to solve the matter in a civil manner.
Exactly.
But it still leaves some people feeling disgruntled. It still leaves some people feeling unhappy.
Well, they are entitled to their opinion, but Obi has had his way.
All right. I want to quickly talk about the House of Reps sending a warning to the Rivers administrator. They're saying he has no constitutional authority to make laws or draft a budget for the state. Of course, you know that the sole administrator was announced plans to prepare a new budget after the declaration of a state of emergency in March. Now, the deputy spokesman for the House, Philip Agbese, is saying the sole administrator does not have the authority to carry out the National Assembly's function of making laws under the current circumstances. A whole lot of people have called the imposition of a sole administrator on River State unconstitutional, illegal. This should not be happening in a democracy. But the National Assembly ratified this. The same National Assembly is not telling the man, you need to know the limits of your power or not going to do pass yourself.
You see, that is the unthinking responsibility of members of the National Assembly. People who send to National Assembly, sometimes I don't even know how they reason. What is their concern? What is the force all about? Because the president clearly said, Abbas, don't make new laws. If you have to make new laws, make records to the National Assembly. Has he made any new law? He simply said that he's going to put together another budget. So what is wrong in that? Don't we have supplementary appropriation budgets, supplementary appropriation bills?
Should he actually be doing that? You know, the budget was also a great cause of contention between the pro-Wike lawmakers and the governor of Fubara, which the Supreme Court later said, okay, you know what, go and represent this budget to them, else the allocation will not be released.
People have to understand that in Rivers State, democracy has been suspended.
So whatever, anything goes.
Anything goes. It is martial law.
But can the sole administrator actually be acting on his own without the influence or without the interference or the knowledge of anyone, of the president, of anybody, any other stakeholder in River State?
What is the definition of sole administrator?
Sole, working on one's own. But he was put there by someone. By the president. So he must run whatever he wants to do by the president.
And the president said, don't make new laws except you have to make records to the National Assembly. Has he made any new law? He just said, I'm going to put together a budget because and he has called people, look, if the governor gave you money, return the money if you have not spent it. And so he's trying to put a budget, whether it is 3 months, 6 months, or as the case may be. And at the end of the day, when his tenure expires and the governor comes back, the governor can either see, budgets have timelines and milestones. So if by the time the sole administrator peradventure leaves by September, and you have a cycle of September to December, the governor can go back to the House and represent. He made efforts, he made attempts to represent that same budget. He was rebuffed by the State House of Assembly.
He really was he going to do? You know, one more concern is that the sole administrator has been making certain moves. He sacked all political appointees of the Governor Fubara administration.
Okay. And I ask you again, what is the meaning of sole administrator? What is the meaning of state of emergency? Choma, state of emergency clearly means that, look, democracy has been suspended.
So as much as the state of emergency is being upheld, then anything the Rivers people are seeing, they should take it.
They should take it, yes, because the government sent 10,000 soldiers into Rivers State. What does that tell you? 10,000 soldiers into Rivers State to maintain law and order. That is martial law. Nigerians don't know. Democracy is dead in Rivers. That is what it is. That is the reality. So the moment, we can argue about it interminably. Lawyers can go to argue and argue. The fact remains that there is a state of emergency in Rivers State. Because there's a state of emergency, it is martial law.
Let's talk about insecurity quickly for about a minute or two before we go. Lakurawa terrorists reportedly invaded a village in Kebbi State and killed 13 vigilantes. They actually came, stole cattle, killed the people, and they left. Lakurawa in Kebbi, bandits and headsmen, Plateau, Benue, Enugu, Ebonyi. Mr. Peter Anoske said the war against insecurity is only being won on the front pages of the newspaper. Do you agree with him? Because, certain times we'll have a certain military personnel come up to tell us, oh, we're winning the war. We killed certain number of people. We were able to dismantle their camp and we're able to decimate them. We killed 2 people, 3 people, but they're killing Nigerian soldiers. They're killing Nigerians. They're taking whole villages, renaming it. They're taking farming settlement. Isn't Plateau or Benue? Benue is the food basket of the nation, right? And the people are being killed. They're being chased out of their ancestral homes. And food is getting more and more expensive all over Nigeria. Do we really realize what we are doing to ourselves? What insecurity is doing to us?
Okay. In all that you have said, are you aware that a group of northern elders passed a vote of confidence on the Minister of State for Defense? And
the Minister of State for Defense is a northerner, Bello Matawali, and former Zamfara State Governor.
They said that, look, he's been able to fight insecurity and they were able to celebrate Eid in peace.
The northern elders, one could say they are the 1% of the 1%. They are the political elite whom these things don't touch.
No, I want to drive home the fact that
even the north does not realize he has a problem.
That is one of the facts that I want to drive. And another is the fact that while you are making a list of flashpoints of insecurity, we have a group of people who are saying, look, this government has done well in fighting insurgency, in fighting banditry, in fighting terrorism. So where does that leave us? Where it leaves us is that, look, we don't even know what we want as a people. Exactly my point.
And if we don't tell ourselves the truth, we will continue to wallow in insecurity.
This could show. Unfortunately, a lot of people worry that the thing is coming down south. Look at 19 villages sacked in Ihiamufu in Enugu State. 19 villages sacked, and up until this moment. But isn't that such an indictment on Governor Peter Amba not being able to protect his people, and in all of these, haven't really heard him say anything? What responsibility should the governor take for the insecurity in his state? Is he in charge of the army? Is he in control of the army, the police, the DSS, or what?
I don't know if you've seen videos of Fulani headers saying they pay to live in these states.
In terms of the kind of arms and ammunition that they carry. Yet, you have these invaders destroying, sacking communities with assault rifles. We'll give you a level of protection.
People have called in saying their communities try to protect themselves and they were repelled.
To protect yourself.
People have called in right here on VOP to say how their communities try to protect themselves, not even with weapons, but with sticks and clubs and bats and others. And the military came in and, just warned them not to do that.
Hold on. The DGDSS said, arrange yourselves. Come to me. Come to us. Come to DSS. We will give you a certain level of protection in terms of the kind of arms you can use to defend yourself. He said that. Go back to that video. And people,
so you actually implore people from the affected communities to go ahead to
he talked about what happened in Nazareth.
Did you say?
He talked about what happened in Nazareth, parts of Bauchi State and Borno State, where people had to mobilize, defended themselves, and according to him, up until this moment, bandits and terrorists have never gone back to those communities. He made sense. People are misreading what he said. They don't look at the final points of what he said. Come to me, arrange yourself as a community. Come. We'll help you to defend yourself by telling you, look, you are entitled to so and so level of arms and ammunition. He said that. I don't know why people are not talking about that. The only people are talking about, the government cannot. And the man was very clear. Look, DSS cannot deploy to all the thousands of communities across the nation. The police cannot do that. The military cannot even do that. So what do we need? We need participation. Communities should participate and help us in defending themselves. What else do you want the man to say?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwumakoro. Our time is fast spent. We really need to go.
Thank you, Chum.
It's always a pleasure whenever you join me to discuss and analyze issues on the news. Do have an amazing day.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much. You have been listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard the police has fired tear gas at Take It Back protesters in Abuja and Rivers State. Obedience reacts as SDP claims Obi Atiku set to join party. House of Reps sends fresh warning to Rivers administrator. And Israel accused of intentionally bombing journalists in Gaza. That is a wrap on the World News at 12. My name is Chioma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP 903 FM. For coverage of your live event and brand news mentions on our news bulletins, do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.